Hey everybody, it's time for another vlog, and in this one I'm going to be taking a look at some of the electronics that are going into the suit. Namely, this is the control and monitoring setup that's going to go into various components across the suit that make the suit completely wireless. I'm going to walk you through exactly what all this does and show you how I put one of these together. So what is all of this? First of all, this is a wireless receiver that I can use to turn all of this on and off remotely using one of these wireless transmitters. Second, this is an ESP32C3 microcontroller that is also Wi-Fi enabled. Now this allows me to get information from this module on my battery level as well as temperature and humidity in whatever component I put this into. Next up, we of course have a LiPo battery. This LiPo battery is a 500 milliamp hour LiPo that runs at a nominal 3.7 volts, so lasts quite a long time. In fact, I ran this whole setup last night, ran until I got up this morning without any problems. And then lastly, I have this extra output which allows me to hook up any LEDs that I want independent of the controller that I just want to make sure turn on whenever I turn on this little unit here. So let me show you how this integrates into my armor. All right, let's say I have a forearm piece just like this one right here, and I'm going to have an LED light in it of some sort that would go here. I want to know if that light is still working. I want to know what my battery life is on it, and I want to know if there's any thermal issues in this component. Obviously, I'm not worried about my forearm heating up, but let's just presume it's a real armor here, or I'm concerned about whether my little microcontroller here is healthy or not. This will go inside this component right here. Battery, everything will fit inside there, will fit inside the padding, and this little plastic piece that you see on the receiver, that'll come off if it is too thick. All of that goes inside of there, and then when I'm ready to cut on the armor, like I said, I've got my little wireless transmitter here. This is a B unit. They come A, B, C, D, so you can turn them on separately. And as I press the B button here, lights and everything will cut on here, and you will see it speak to my armor, and it will light up the component that it represents. Let me show you how this works. And B, LED cuts on, starts communicating with the armor.
Calf left connected.
There, hopefully you heard that. It says calf left connected. I programmed this one to go into the left calf. Now, of course, I can change that to be for whichever component I want it to be. It's just the name that I program into the microcontroller. And then, as this starts to die in the armor's software, in the HUD software, I actually have certain settings like over temperature, under voltage. It will start monitoring it, and if it completely disconnects, it will show me that too. That is all built into the HUD software. As I show you right now, I will turn it off remotely. No more light. Graphical representation.
Calf left disconnected.
Calf left disconnected. I hear it. So Friday is monitoring all of this for me. So the whole suit can be monitored wirelessly over Wi-Fi without any intervention from me. I don't have to actively monitor it, but I can with the little armor that's on the screen here. So how did I build all of this? What's involved with this setup? Let me show you. So everything I need to build one of these setups is right here on my table, and I think almost all of these components came from Amazon except for the little ESP32C3, which came from Seed Studio, and these particular very tiny LED backlights, which came from Adafruit. That was the only place I could find those. So what are all the components here? First of all, as I said, the wireless transmitter and receiver. There's a whole set of these you can get off of Amazon, and they come with ABCD. It comes with 4 of these, and my expectation is I will buy multiple sets of these, then I will have multiple going to A, B, C, and D, and as I cut each of them on, it will light up my armor. This allows me to power down my armor remotely without having to burn out the batteries or reach into every component of my armor. to turn all of them off. Next up, as I mentioned, this is a backlit LEDs. These will go inside of my armor in the various pieces. Like I said, for example, in this forearm, there is a light that goes right here, so that'll go in here. Then I've got various connectors. I've got two different size connectors. I've got a smaller size that I'm using for the battery. I have the larger connectors here that I'm going to be using to power the lights and the external components that go to this. I've got some resistors for various parts of this. I've got some 220 kilo ohm resistors that I'm using for part of the circuit that measures the voltage. And then I have these 47 ohm resistors that I use on the LED to keep those from heating up and burning out. As I mentioned, I have this Seed Studio ESP32C3. I chose this one in particular. They're very low cost. And they have an external antenna, which gives me much better signal strength on these. And finally, I've got this, which is a AHT10 temperature and humidity sensor, and this just hangs off, control it via I2C bus, and I've got all the code in Arduino for that. Other than that, of course, you'll need a soldering iron, you will need some solder, and as I mentioned, I am using a 500 milliamp hour battery, and I buy these in 4 packs off of Amazon. They come with a whole bunch of extra connectors so that you can put the right size connector for your project on the batteries. They obviously come with one on there, but then you can put whatever size you need, and I do have to switch this out for my project because I'm using a slightly smaller one than what it comes with. So I think that's it for a quick walkthrough of all of the parts of this setup. So I'm going to do all the soldering. As I do it, I'll try to put up on the screen what I'm working on, how this is going together, so that you understand a little bit about how this works, but I'm not going to bore you with all of the details. Let's get to building another one of these.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Stepping up, don't be scared. I'm so gone, no, I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong, you will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate, I attack.
So that's it for the new wiring harness. Everything is wired up and ready to go. The only thing left to do is put some software on the ESP32. So let's head over to the computer and I'll show you briefly what that code looks like and how I change it for each component of the armor. All right, here we are back at the computer. I've got all the code pulled up here. Let's take a look. Now, if you're new to Arduino Code, you don't know all the stuff I'm talking about here, that's fine. I hopefully can do some sort of starter videos in the future. This is just for people that want to know exactly what to change for their purposes, and we can go through setup and stuff like that in a later video. This is just a vlog. So looking at it here, usual copyright, licensing stuff at the top of the file. We've got some stuff here that you can enable, disable for debug information, for suppressing additional debugs and printfs on the top. Connection retry attempts. I got all the header files, of course. I'm using a JSON for the communications back to my heads-up display, and I have an Adafruit library that I'm using for the thermal and humidity sensor. Again, look at the secrets file here, which is the second file over for your SSID and your password for your Wi-Fi. Those are defined here at the top. Then some different things depending on whether you're using ESP32 S2 S3s or the C3 like I'm using. Changes the pin that we're reading the voltage on. Usual setup stuff here. Again, this is all about connecting to the Wi-Fi network, connecting to your MQTT broker. And that's it for the setup. And then I've got some stuff about intervals here. How often are you going to send this information to your HUD? This can change depending on your setup. I'm trying to back off a little. I don't think this needs to be sent that often, so I've changed the default at this point to 5 seconds or 5,000 milliseconds. Again, I do a lot of setup here with JSON. JSON is a text format that's both human readable and machine processable, and that's what I'm using for the communications protocol. As we go down here, again, in this section, this one's not being used right now. This is for something else. I left it in there for later. This settings we're actually doing where we're going to actually retrieve the voltage information off of that voltage divider that I soldered onto the bottom of the circuit board. That's being read right here. And then the temperature humidity getting is very, very simple. Thanks to Adafruit, we got this aht.get event, humidity, temp. We do a little bit of factoring here, and then we send that accordingly. Of course, we can verify this here, which I've already done. You can see the build here at the bottom. And then we can upload this over here. Of course, the one thing I forgot, which was how do you change which part of the armor that this is actually sent to. Skip that right here, which is on line 67. And you can look at the configuration file of the HUD for all of the various options you have, all the various pieces of the suit. I'm just going to configure this one for the shoulder left of the suit, which does have an LED in it, and that's going to go up here. So again, you just change this text here for whichever piece, cod piece, left thigh, right thigh, calves, whatever. Again, check out that config file. Let's go ahead and send this to the ESP32, which I have right here plugged in via USB. So one of the beautiful things about the way that I soldered this up is you can simply unplug it from your setup that goes in your armor, and then this easily just plugs back up and it can be reprogrammed, reset up for whatever you need it for. Done uploading. Let's go over to our serial monitor. It is connecting to Stark Industries, finds the MQTT broker at 192.168.10.1, and then we have the voltage, which it's reading at 4, which is what you get when you are plugged into USB. It's accurate when it's reading off of battery. And then it's got the temperature, which I'm not using the humidity right now. I only have the temperature. Temperature right now showing 28 degrees Celsius. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. I think there needs to be some sort of offset on these AHT10s for them to be accurate, but I will work that out later. Code's all good here. Showed you how this integrates in with the Iron Man helmet, the HUD, earlier. So I think that's going to be it for this video. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed this little quick vlog style deep dive into the way I am setting this up to work with my HUD so that all of the different components of the armor actually integrate like a real suit would, kind of going with that Mark 42 vibe where everything's independent, it's wireless, can be turned on independently of one another. I think it's going to be really cool. Again, thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you're interested in this kind of Iron Man stuff, if you want some behind-the-scenes stuff, as people start joining for that, I'm going to create more behind-the-scenes, more specialized content for the followers of this on my Patreon. Thanks again for all the people that follow me here. I'm Chris. This is Carsey Fabrications, and I will see you in the next video as I continue to work on finishing this Iron Man armor for Dragon Con. Thanks for watching.